Kua says.
At that I am.
Translate from Japanese.
Okay. I am going to, I gotta make a marker real quick so I know where we started. And then we can jump in. Right? And then you know what? I'm going to mute Minecraft. And we're going to try letting TTS run. If it becomes too distracting for my tiny brain, I'll mute it or even pause it. So,
sounds good.
However you want to start.
Kev Prime says.
Do you want to tell us?
Run.
So, well, you know what? Let's start with this. What is your title, so we can then jump into maybe why the customer was yelling at you?
That's a strangely loaded question. My official title that like is on my LinkedIn or what I actually am titled like internally.
You know what? Both, if you don't mind. I think it's an interesting perspective. Fine. Why? But yeah, both.
So officially, I am a threat analyst. That is what I got hired for. That is what I'm supposed to be doing. So, threat analyst in kind of industry terms is supposed to be kind of your middle ground between a SOC and like your full-on blue teamers, right? So it's a lot of threat hunting and analysis rather than, the incidents come in, we work the queue, etc. It also implies a lot more configuration assessment. So it's definitely not supposed to be an intro role. I'm relatively sure my company just called everyone threat analyst to make themselves sound bigger than they are.
Okay.
But internally, I am the lead of security operations, and I am also the lead pen tester. A little bit by attrition. I am the longest running analyst at that company, and I am the entire pen testing department. So
okay,
it sounds really cool until you get the details, right?
A little bit. I still think it's cool though. You're building something out from the ground up. I'm doing something similar. Is that right? I mean, you're it. So you're building these things. You're building these things out.
Yes and no.
Or you have some things already set up. Yeah.
Well, so in my position, right, it was a lot of. So I guess I should give a little bit of backstory on that. So when I joined this company, this was my second job in security. Before that, I was a intern at a much larger company doing security automation. That internship ended. I was looking for a role. I jumped in on this company.
Okay.
At that time, there were, I think, 4 or 5 other analysts, but they were all like senior analysts. They had basically been there since the start of the company. They had been in the industry 10, 15 years, And then through a handful of office politics and other extraneous circumstances, that dwindled away. And everyone that they replaced them with were fresh college graduates. So I wouldn't really say that I built a lot from the ground up because that infrastructure was in place. However, that infrastructure was put in place by people that had been doing this for a very long time, but also were severely burnt out.
Okay.
So it was well done, but it wasn't ever well maintained.
Okay.
Like, God, when I started pen testing, I had to reverse engineer all of our processes. No one had written down a thing. I have a funny story about that for later that involves possibly breaking into a client server.
Translated from Japanese.
Okay.
It's It's definitely been an interesting role.
Okay.
It's a small company, so it's that big, not necessarily startup, but just that small company grind,
Hmm.
um, which you'll run into when it's. I don't think that they're necessarily afraid to grow, but they just don't feel the need to grow in the way that I think we need to.
Okay.
But
Well, I mean, they may be happy with whatever money's coming in right now, and everyone's making money, and but I agree.
yeah,
I mean, why not look at growing? Okay, so then before we jump into, if you want to tell us why you were getting yelled at by a client, let's start with, I guess, because the way I want to frame this is, because actually I set this up with you. I'm actually going to set something up with Tagora. Tagora is in the industry as well, but from a networking infrastructure point of view, and MSEC also from a UK point of view. And I'm trying to grab from these different perspectives because it's still an issue out there with people that are looking for talent, not able to find what they want, and on top of whatever conversation we have, I want to also be able to convey to, people like, okay, well, what should you be doing? What worked for Zooks? And then, what worked for
yeah.
Tagore? What worked for so you told us a little bit right already, but like, I mean, who are you? I don't expect you to tell us your name, but
No,
like your
yeah,
location,
absolutely.
your age, and previous jobs.
So before I jump into that ramble, I did get Minecraft working.
Okay.
So if you want to either resend me one or I can send one to your gamer tag.
I think I sent to you,
Did you?
or at least a friend request.
Yeah, I think that just disappeared in whatever the hell was going on before I reinstalled it.
Okay. So Nori and I had a brainstorm like 3 hours before we did this, is because I was planning on playing Minecraft anyways. Okay, it says you're already a friend. Maybe I had to back out.
Oh, interesting. Do you just want to send me yours?
Oh, yeah, I can do that.
Microsoft, you implement things so seamlessly. What would we do in this world without you? For quick reference, guys,
Yep.
I'm a Microsoft partner. Um, I have multiple Microsoft certifications. I also hate them.
So this is actually my son's, and I took over his account and he started a new one.
Who
That's
doesn't
a
hate
hell of a dad tax
Microsoft?
right there. Okay, now I think I need the invite code.
Okay. I don't know how to do that. What's this? That's not it. Maybe I can't invite you. Your friends are not playing Minecraft right now.
Get a share link, apparently. Where's a share link? Hold on.
This is going swimmingly.
So smooth. Where's a share link from? Okay, so if you're looking at the realm
Yeah.
in the main menu,
Yeah.
there's a button on the right that says edit.
Yep. I don't got that.
Is that the realm?
Yep.
Oh, well, then is it Nori's realm?
Yep.
He might have to invite me.
I just asked her.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I guess in the meantime of troubleshooting, God, I love being the beta tester, Theo.
Yeah, that's about right.
So what? I guess what was the question again?
Okay, so I don't know. I can't do more than one thing at a time. Here you go. Try this. Okay, so I have to chop up some. I would have to chop up some dead air. That's fine.
It's okay. I can re-say what I said earlier.
No, it should be fine.
All right, there we go. I am in the world. That was the most seamless transition I've ever experienced.
Nailed it.
Oh, dead on, first try. So I'm going up these stairs here.
Yep, you're gonna find. Nope. I'm the little house built into the side of the mountain to your right, left. All right, now come up the mountain. Don't go any farther. Yep. You passed me.
I'm very glad that I'm not streaming my screen right now because my mouse sensitivity is impossibly high.
There you go. All right. Nope. Come this way. Turn around. Yep. Don't fall down that pit, but go in where those soul lanterns are. There we go. All right. Down here.
Down here. All right. We make it?
Perfect. I think so.
God.
Oh, I'm in the middle of my screen. All right, I got to come over here. Switch places with me.
All right, that was just adjusting my sensitivity. Okay, right there.
I think so. Hold on. Yep, that's way better. Perfect. All right, don't forget to nod your head up and down when you're talking. All right, and a raid from Jess.
Oh, great timing. They missed all of our troubleshooting.
Thank you, Jess, for the raid.
British flock is swooping in. British flock is swooping in. British sunglasses, British raid, British love.
Kitty says, British flock is swooping in. British flock is swooping in. British raid, British love, British sunglasses.
All right.
Kev Prime says,
There's no.
Kev Prime remembers
Hi, Nori.
troubleshooting.
I was shouting out Jess, and then I removed the screen there, and then there's Nori.
Static Drop
Just got
says,
flashbanged by those wings.
Theo.
Hi, Static. All right. Where's I had a feeling that Nori was going to visit. Okay.
Static Drop says,
It's nice to see your face.
All right, Zoogs. So you were telling me what we were talking about was your background.
Yeah.
So we were talking, and only what you're comfortable sharing, like your location, age, previous jobs.
Yeah.
So whatever
Don't
you're.
worry. I don't think I'm gonna dox myself, but I'll give some info here.
All right.
um, yeah. So I guess. All right. So I did do the traditional college route. I just graduated actually. I got a 4-year degree, cybersecurity, minor in computer science, that whole thing. In terms of my technical background, when I was younger, I was tech savvy, but I was never really that interested into this like aspect. I didn't learn how to code till college. I didn't build my first PC, I think, till 20,
Okay.
or 19 or 20. But what I did do is auto mechanics and just building and engineering things.
Oh, okay.
Really into CAD modeling, custom machining, and really, I think when you abstract hacking enough, it's the same idea, right? It's just you want to understand how something works and you want to know a system in all its little fine, intricate pieces. And then from there, hacking is just figuring out how to leverage that,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
It's looking at the gears turn and hey, if I put a stick in here, something might blow up, right?
Yep.
Um, but outside of college, I mean, my first couple years of college, I just worked pretty normal jobs. I was a line cook a couple times at different places. I did construction, worked concrete, that whole thing. The first like I'd say tech related job I had was I built a couple PCs for some local companies and did a little bit of IT stuff for them.
Okay.
But after that was probably my internship actually.
Okay. Well,
So, oh,
that's
go ahead.
interesting. I would say that's interesting because aside from auto mechanics, it is the same thing with like restaurants, where I started too. Go ahead.
And nothing will make you choose a career like being in a restaurant long enough. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
is miserable work, man.
Yeah, it's hard, and that's why I mean I always have respect for people when if it's the cook or the waiter or whoever it is that is taking care of us in a restaurant.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Tip your servers, guys. The cooks are fine. They're all drunk, but they're feeling great. Um, but yeah. So my first cybersecurity job, um, I found that one actually through an uncle who had just quit the company and told me about this internship program they did. And so I signed up for it, had my whole host of interviews, and I got in there. So they're a pretty large conglomerate. I'm not gonna name drop them, but they're in the financial sector. And so they
Okay.
did all their security in-house. They had a massive operations team, a massive PrivSec team, GRC, that whole thing.
Hmm.
So I was in security operations, which also did security automation. And for that job, they had this thing where you did like these intern projects rather than just kind of doing the day to day there. So we ended up, me and actually a guy that I got a job at my current company. We wrote a Django web app that was basically just a front end for their firewall controls.
Okay.
So they had been just sharing this giant Excel spreadsheet where they would put in the IPs that they wanted to block and how long they wanted to block them for and like the approvals and stuff. And then a bot would just come through and scrape that and then hand it over to the firewall's API. So we
Wow.
wrote, a little front end GUI, some sorting stuff that you could query, a kind of like access control flag. So you put
Sixes.
the firewall check in,
Classic banking
and
IT
then
using
it
Excel.
would send it over to this like privileged area where only like the admins could log into, and then they would either hit yes or no on the checks. Um, it was actually a pretty cool piece of software. We called it Blockinator. Um, we made like a whole logo for it. It was Rick Sanchez as Terminator. But
Okay.
so yeah, after that, that's when I started working in my current company. And I've just kind of been there since. Do you want me to kind of talk about the transition into pen testing, or?
I do, but let's talk about first. So
Yeah.
before your first pen testing job or job in cybersecurity, or even the banking when you're doing the IT and you were doing that, what were you? What was your education level at that time?
So when I got my job, my first internship, I was in my junior, or let's see, when I was interviewing for it, I was in my junior year. When I was at the job, it was the summer before my, I'll say senior light year. Because I graduated in winter, so it was like I had like a year and a half left.
Okay.
hmm
Okay. So you were senior year in high school.
No. Senior year of college.
Senior year of college. Okay. Got
High
it.
school, I was pouring concrete.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. That
Yeah,
makes more
yeah.
sense now. Okay. And
Yes.
your major for college was what?
Cybersecurity
Cybersecurity.
was the major. Yep, and then I
Okay.
got a minor in computer science because it was like one extra class.
Okay. So we're talking college level bachelor's degrees, which you were going after?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, at the time.
Pure says.
From that,
Hat off.
what
Translated from Japanese.
what have you taught yourself?
Oh, taught myself or someone outside of traditional education taught me.
Yes.
Okay, everything. I mean this with all sincerity. Get your piece of paper because it's a real big pain in the ass to not. Um, Recruiters just like they don't care if you have one, but they really aren't gonna look at you if you don't.
So now you're talking about recruiters solely. Recruiters and
Well,
HR.
recruiters, HR, yeah. I mean, this is not an industry thing. I have never met a pen tester or an analyst or someone that's on the technical side of cybersecurity that is like, yeah, no, college was the greatest. It taught me everything. Absolutely not.
Right.
No way.
Yep.
If you ever meet that person, let me know. I'll draw a square. Uh, but you get your piece of paper because it's a requirement, and that's really about it.
Yep.
Um,
But real quick before you keep going, Nori's walking in and out of the screen. First, she had
I
a
can see
creeper head on,
can see
and I
her.
think that was it. So if it's this is going to be on Twitch, but I'm going to be moving it over to the podcast as well. So to explain what's going on, me and Zoogs are in Minecraft, and Nori's zipping in and out. What I thought the next mask was an Enderman head or something like that. Or an Ender Dragon. I don't even know what it was. It was an Ender
was an
something or
Ender
other.
Dragon.
So.
God, you really did take your son's Minecraft account, huh?
Oh yeah, I did. I got to change the picture. So that's what's going on if I break out in laughter. Okay. What are my next question is as we're going through these is how important do you feel certifications are?
Do you want this from a red team perspective or a blue team?
Red team first, but both is fine.
Yeah. So I think. So here's the thing,
Kev
at least with how I
Francis.
look at it.
As he has TC
Security
and
operations is an intro role, right? I don't think security as a whole is an intro to IT role.
Asks
Right,
about
like-
certs.
Your first experience in IT probably shouldn't be security. It very well may be, and they will hire you as an intro security analyst with no prior experience in IT.
Mm-hmm.
But I can confidently say that you are not nearly as good of an analyst as you think you are, if that's the case, unless you are like aggressively trying to learn things.
Okay.
Because us as security professionals, we have to be the jacks of all trades, right?
Right.
You have to be a good analyst. You have to be a half decent programmer to the point where you can read and understand code. You should be able to do a decent amount of reverse engineering and heuristics. You should be a half okay sysadmin, because the only way to spot these flaws and things and to understand how to mitigate an attack is to
Depends on your
understand
training
how to
program. If you
protect
had
it
any, some are
properly.
pretty hardcore, some are meh.
And so,
Kev
yeah, go
Prime,
ahead.
real quick, Zoogs. Kev Prime had, I left TTS on, so I think we're going to roll with this. Kev Prime made the comment. I've recently became an affiliate for TCM Security and their platform. So this is what I want to say about certifications.
I love TCM.
I like TCM because of their learning modules, the PNPT, the practical ethical hacking. Aside from the certification that they offer. So with that bit of background, I'm not pushing their stuff. I wasn't planning on pushing their stuff at all.
So you're gonna get a bunch of free advertisement from me once I start talking about my first pen test.
Oh yeah, is that why?
They saved me. Yes.
Well,
I love TCM.
but sure that they saved you, but it could be it doesn't necessarily have to it didn't necessarily have to be them.
No,
you could have got
but-
that information from anyone, but in your particular case, you got it from them. So
I
is
will
what it is.
say this is a little bit of a sidetrack, but what TCM does that's really good compared to a lot of the other services is its intermediate knowledge.
Okay.
There's so much free beginner stuff for pen testing, but the
Yeah.
moment you get to the point where you're past this is a basic SQL injection, here's an Nmap flag, you are looking at spending either an exorbitant amount of time trying to find all the documentation and setting up your own labs, or you're spending an insane amount of money to go for something like the OSCP or do like the Pen 200, or even try Hack Me's monthly is really expensive for what you get.
And you know what? You brought that up because I asked you what you wanted to talk about, and you had stated the state of intermediate to advanced education and pest testing. So while we're there, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I think another thing that I put on there was the beginner's course black hole.
Yeah.
So, a big problem with the fact that all these beginner courses are so free is, and it's this give take, right? As pen testing gets harder, right? As systems get better, as things get more convoluted, at the exact same time, the information is a lot more apparent, right? I mean, I have my TTPs in a Git book, hack tricks, DevSec, 0 Point Security puts out a great one. Just like we were talking about before, TCM makes so many free tools, and they publish all their courses all the time for super discounted prices. I don't have their subscription. All the courses from them that I've gotten were when they were running like, yeah, it's either free or $1.
Yep.
Right?
Me too. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So like the problem is it's really hard to find structured learning content past that beginner level that doesn't commit you to a huge financial burden.
Right.
And structured is the part that I'm hitting on, because you can find information about everything, but pen testing is not something you do in theory, right? Pen testing is something that it's basically being the best reverse engineer ever, right? You need to be able to problem solve in it, and you need to have something to try against. And that's where, and I'm not a big CTF person, but I think for a lot of people, this is where CTFs come in. For me, this is where like a structured lab comes in.
Okay.
I do a lot better in a structured lab environment because I like to learn the full aspect of the technique and then go apply it to a CTF, because I'm not a big swing my stick around in the darkness kind of person. And just kind of hope. And some people really are good at that. And if you are, I applaud you, and let me know when you're doing a CTF so I can feel better about myself. But that's just not how I learn. And finding the way that you learn is extremely important.
Very important. Agree.
The whole kind of beginner course black hole is just the only structured courses really that are out there that are free and available are that.
Hmm.
And I think that's why I'm such a proponent of TCM, is because they do offer that content. And I think TCM they're not advanced courses. I think a complete newbie could genuinely jump into most of those and do just fine.
Hmm. I think so too.
But it does provide that kind of bridge of knowledge to where you're past the beginner stuff and here's some stuff that's generic enough and enough like tools and techniques that are generic enough that you can apply them to a long way.
Hmm.
Because once you start hitting those more advanced course levels, everything gets more niche too.
How much do you feel that your college experience, your college education, and what you did yourself teaching, how do you think that those prepared you for your role now in pen testing? How well did they?
You know, I can honestly say there were 3 classes that I took that I think genuinely prepared me for
Okay.
pen testing, and
Right.
I only say 2 of them because they were math and computational theory classes,
Okay.
and they really help you understand the base level of things.
Okay.
Um, the third one was just a networking class, and that one was useful because now I actually remember what the OSI model is.
Right. Right.
But everything outside of that has been, I mean, it's been finding courses and it's been, doing my own research. It doesn't matter what side of security you're on, you need to be curious.
Hmm.
You
So-
need to be an investigative person and not ever take things at face value.
Yep. I agree. So I front loaded that because I figured you were going to go to that anyways.
Yeah.
Because of the point that I wanted to make, and I'm going to see your opinion on this too. You have to do like the formal education or the learning on your own. Like that stuff is important because you have to be able to troubleshoot. You have to be able to go and learn and figure out these things. But you have to, especially to work well in the industry, I really think you gotta get that information in, and then you're applying it once you are in the industry, especially the problem solving and trying to work your way through a problem.
And I've worked with enough people now to say that some people just aren't like that. Some people like their very, very standardized SOPs, right? This is how we work these. This is what we investigate. This is what they check. And they will probably do pretty well in their role like that. But I think the problem with that is really advancement. You could maybe get, just off time, maybe SOC 2, SOC 3, right?
Mhm.
And you'll probably pick up some general knowledge, but the best way to expedite your path in security is not to wait for someone to ask you to figure something out.
Yep. Go out and try to figure it out yourself. Try to solve the problem yourself.
Go fail.
Go
right?
break it.
Go break it. Go
Agree.
fail. Go push to prod on a Friday. It's fine. Everything's fine. But like I think for me, a lot of the knowledge that I gained came from that. I wasn't really I don't like being in my comfort zone. I don't want to sit there and do the same tasks day in and day out, and I don't want to close out the same incidents. Like I want to feel uncomfortable. I want to feel like, God, I have a report at the end of this week and I don't know how to do this kind of technology,
Mhm.
right? And at least for me, that's my motivating factor. And some people don't need that. If you have intrinsic motivation to just go do things, once again, congrats and call me when you're doing CTFs. But I like for me, I need that almost stressor factor, right?
Okay.
That fight or flight, sink or swim, and that works really well. I think a lot of being an effective learner is
Only push to
self-realization.
prod of Friday if you are
You
responsible
need to
for
understand how
fixing
you
and
learn. You
comfortable
need to
doing so.
understand the
Seen
things
some
that get you
people push
going
shit into
because
other
the
people's
motivation
workflows and
factor
find themselves
is
on their
always
way
going
to
to
a
be
new
more
job real
important than
quick.
just I feel like I need to do this,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Like you have to want it. I can sit there and look at slides and take notes, but that's not gonna hit the same way as, you know, I had SNMP come up on a pen test this week, right?
Right.
Simple network management protocol. Never have touched it before. Had no idea how it worked. Deep dove it, right? I learned everything about it. I learned how like private strings work, how public strings work, how you can use that to exfiltrate information, how to grep for passable password hashes, right? How
Right.
you can overwrite those values. It's that kind of stuff where it's like, oh shit, like this wasn't on the lab, right? This isn't something we covered in class. And
Right.
instead of trying to move back to something you've seen before, just like, you know what, it's going to become something familiar to me. And I think it's such an important factor that I think we don't talk about enough in security and with security learning. Everyone's always trying to tell you should go get this cert and you should go do this thing because it'll prepare you for this job and except in my opinion, you should go research what you're interested in.
Hmm.
Be the best at the things you want to be the best at. And I promise, just in the nature of how technology and security works, you will know more about every single topic on the planet than anyone else that just went and did a generic course because they thought they had to.
Okay, let's talk about that then. So, like, how would you translate what you just said there? How does that help you get a job?
Yeah. So really, I think it comes down a lot to it's competency, right? So the intro to the door, that's your HR stuff. But it's your technical interviews that are really gonna end up mattering,
Hmm.
right? That kind of second, third interview. So I think that the certs, the traditional education, get your resume pumped up, do this, do that, are important for like because you need that foot in the door, but being able to not even being able to prove that you know a lot of things, but being able to prove that you can learn a lot of things, I think is really important. You know, when
It's
you're in your technical interview, there's no shame in saying, I don't know how to do that. But instead of just saying, I don't know what that is, demonstrate how you'd go and figure that out,
hmm.
right?
Yep.
I think that's a really important part.
Agree. Yeah, I really think you have to be able to. I I think you have to be able to show that not only you got to say it, yeah, you know how to do these things, but you have to be able to prove that you know how to do those things. I push GitHub a lot, and people are asking me like, "What should I be working on?" Or I haven't been able to get a job, and this is going to lead me into the next one. I tell people to work on a GitHub, work on scripts, work on walkthroughs for CTFs, put it on your GitHub. But then also I tell people about networking. So I'm not sure how much networking that you did, or perhaps your networking was that you were at this internship and then when you went to apply for the next job, they were able to call the internship and say, well, if he was so good, how come you didn't keep him on? Can you speak to that? How do you feel about networking?
Yeah.
And at what levels
So,
too? Because there's social media, there's face to
mhm.
face, there's meet and greets. Like, what are your thoughts?
So I think face to face is more important. So I would say that after you get your initial security slash IT job, networking is exponentially easier. And
He
you
likes all
did call that
princes.
right. I found the
Hi-ho.
company I'm working at because one of the analysts I worked with had a friend that worked there and told me they were hiring and then put in a good word for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Um, Almost every state has a local DEF CON group.
Do they
Go to those
really?
meetings. Yeah, yeah. We have one. All the states in the geographic area have one. Um, go and go find those. Go do that, right? It's just a bunch of other nerds. They're just as nervous as you,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
In terms of social media in like that, I don't know. It's never been for me, but I think it's also because I am not in that kind of security. I
Mm-hmm.
think like I'm on Twitter. Y'all can go follow me at Zoogs if you want. But like I talk on there a lot, but
Right.
it's
I
I'm
didn't
talking
see
with
you
other
alive for
hackers
almost
and
2
other pen
hours.
testers that are just behind their like screen handle, right? I'm not reposting stuff on LinkedIn for, for reach or for blah blah marketability. It's
Right.
but that's not my thing and that's not my preference. But I go to like the local DEF CON meetings, and I think communities like this, right? Like your guys' chat. I talked to quite a few people out of your Discord server that are other pen testers.
Hmm.
I hit up, not even hit up, I harass Penguin at least once a month
Yep.
about something that I can't figure out how to do on Burp Suite.
Yep.
Um,
And
so
I,
I think the community aspect's super important of it, but I don't think you need to do what everyone that is also on social media will tell you need to do. You don't need to go and make a cybersecurity account or start adding all these recruiters on LinkedIn, or here's your daily cyber fun fact. Don't run things as admin, right? Like I don't think that's a necessity, and I don't think that's something you should feel pressured to do.
mhm. The only thing I wanted, and I'll tell people this on stream too, if you're gonna be on social media, I think it's important that you engage, you ask genuine questions of people, like if it's on LinkedIn or if it's Twitter, and I think you should engage positively with other people. I agree with you also about like face to face. Face-to-face
How are you? You?
oh, sour cream, how you doing? I think it's important you do that face-to-face like meet and greet. But if you're only comfortable on social media, you have to be able to build that. You have to be able to build that function where you're able to talk to people.
Absolutely.
And if you're awkward at it, you're gonna be awkward at it the first 10, 15, 20 times. But yeah, you gotta work past that, because people are just naturally more comfortable, hiring someone that they can talk to face to face.
Yeah,
In my
the
opinion.
communication skills are essential.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because
Am good.
so when we look at security, we're not a profit garnering role, right? What we do is we market in harm reduction, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not developers. We don't bring extra capital unless you work for a security consulting company.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that means as every time there's an economic downturn, you're going to see a downturn in security roles. Not necessarily in its pay, right? Because we are still skilled employees and
Right.
we have minimum requirements to be good at our jobs. But you will see a dramatic reduction in increasing of security staff when there's a down quarter. I mean, that's the reason I didn't stay at the company that my internship was at. I loved that company. They were great. The people there were amazing. But they had a down quarter, and so they froze hiring across all non-revenue bringing positions.
Okay, and so that's a good distinction to make. So the first one you were in, you were doing IT and
Internally, yeah.
internal cybersecurity internally, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and then at the next company, you are part of a consultancy that is bringing money in. So those are good.
Yes.
That's a very good distinction.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought that up. It's a very good distinction between those two roles.
And the important thing is too, though, is when you're faced with that, right? When you're faced with the economic downturn, who's gonna hire? External.
Mm-hmm.
What do you really need as an external consultant? Insane communication skills. You can get by internal with just, and I'm not a people person by any means. I don't want to seem like I'm a big extrovert, right? I don't like leaving my basement, but you got to learn to do the corporate speak game, because
Yep.
a lot of the people that you're going to be communicating with aren't other security people. If I think of my clients, of all the clients that I've had over the time I was there, I'd say maybe 30% of my points of contact were technical staff. Maybe 10% of them were other security people. So, I mean, you're talking to heads of HR, you'll talk to a lot of heads of finance, because that's where that risk reduction section for their business will come into.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be able to communicate with them, but also, and this kind of interferes with the learning aspect, you have to be able to explain things to them. And being able to explain extremely technical things in a normal language implies that you have a deep knowledge of the subject.
Yep.
It's very easy for two tech people to talk about a topic that they both know on a surface level and sound like wizards to everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot harder to abstract that to a point where someone that's not in a technical area is going to be able to understand easily. And so that's why, again, security isn't an intro role. Like, even communication gets harder without that base of knowledge.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Another good point. Yeah. You just gotta jump in and be awkward and get that out of the way until you're better at communicating. It's just one of those
100%.
things. It's just like practicing any other skill, and you're gonna suck at it at first. So, and some people aren't. Some people are naturally good at it. So, God bless
You got
them.
two
But
options. You either, improve your soft skills or get so good you don't need them. But
yeah,
you're going to have to pick a lane.
yeah, that's true.
Master Blaster says,
So I have another
Realistic
burning
community.
question here. So, if you could have dinner with any fictional character, who would it be and why?
Oh, Lord. Oh. Is this the question you hid from the chat? So
Yeah,
I
these-
wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I
This is
took a
the
bunch of
sleeper
these
question?
off. Yeah. Here. Okay, let's ease into it. Do you like
Alright, let me think about that one.
Arizona beverage, Arizona teas? You know what I'm talking about? The cans?
Ginseng honey, by far.
Ginseng honey by far. Okay.
Yeah. When they switched to bottles,
Mhm.
I almost boycotted the entire grocery store. I was so mad. They taste so much worse.
Yeah. It's not the same without that metallic taste.
It's not, I
They're
want
not. No,
to
I agree.
keep my iron content up. There's enough microplastics in my blood. All right. Give me
Yeah.
my can back.
Right. In the summer around here, I think it's Walgreens. They'll do a buy one get one. That makes them 50 cents each. I think some of the bigger places sell them like $1.25, but we always keep an eye on at Walgreens in the summer for the for that sale. So
I think they were 99 cents up until last
Six
year.
says-
They
Yeah,
held
they
out
were.
for a while.
yeah, they kept them that way.
Microplastics.
Good on them.
Who's
Master
the person
Blaster
in the
says-
channel? You didn't. Oh,
Who's in the person in the channel, Theo? You didn't update the title. That's why I'm asking.
Oh.
I didn't. I thought it says recording the podcast with Zooks.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Thanks though, Master Blaster. Okay, we talked about networking. We talked about your
Those
current
who don't know,
role.
I'm Zoogs. I'm just another shitbag
Six
hacker.
says,
Guest episode with Zoogs.
What are your employer's expectations in your current role? Like hours, testing timeline, working with others?
So no one really handed me guidelines because no one really tells me to do much. I just kind of inherited it all, and I just sit in my own silo and do stuff.
Okay.
My employer is a terrible example of what the industry standard is like. I could speak on the industry standard, but I will say that mine doesn't match that at all. I've been the lead analyst and lead penetration tester since the beginning of 2023 while working part-time. So my employer is not a good example. I was pulling 10, 11-hour days for 10 months straight.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
So, some of your questions that you wanted to cover. We talked about intermediate, advanced education, but intro course purgatory. We touched on that, didn't we?
I think we
Yeah.
actually hit most of my questions like right in the middle there.
Yeah, stepping out of
'Cause
your
they're
comfort
all
zone. We talked
related.
about that too.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think I definitely skipped over a couple of years earlier. rant on that.
We talk about your background, talk about your education level. We talk about what you taught yourself.
Certifications.
Yes.
Yeah, I do want to touch on those real quick.
All right.
I think I went into a rant about how
We talked,
pen testing and security aren't
because I
intro
felt
roles.
attacked by
Yes.
the TCM security statement, right?
Yeah, so as I said before, right, security is not an introductory role, but I think when it comes to certifications,
Kev Prime says,
pen testing
feel
is a
attacked.
necessary certification to even get into it. 90% of the time.
translated
Unless you're
from
in a
Indonesian.
situation,
You less than 3.
know it applies to me, and I
Translated from
believe it applies to you
Portuguese.
too, right? Where it's basically like we are the program,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of fell onto us more than we just kind of we while it was what we both wanted to do, this is not what I signed up for, right? It was born out of necessity.
Mhm.
If you want a pen testing role, and it's actually a large reason why I haven't started running to other companies yet, you need the certs, right? You need to either get your pen test plus, you need to go look for your OSCP, or shout out TCM, PN, PT. I'm not doing that because it's not really super popular yet. But hey, if you got $400, you're gonna get some great information, and it might land you like a cool internship or like an intro role. But for the kind of roles that I would transition to, I'm gonna need to get my OSCP.
Mm-hmm.
But for blue teamers and for kind of your security operations side, basically all the CompTIA ones are pretty solid.
Mhm.
Really, those are more HR requirements. I can't super speak to how well structured those courses are, how much it teaches you, because I am a red teamer and I do blue team from a red team perspective as well. So to me, I think learning how a system is vulnerable and how these attacks work and how to mitigate them is infinitely more important than only looking how to have the best baseline, right? Oh, well, I met, the CISP, whatever guidelines, the bunch of acronyms that GRC will throw at you, PCI, whatever, compliance standards. And you can go do that and you can go make all those protections. But even as a security analyst, the reason I'm so much faster than some of my peers is because I can look at something that fired for a specific type of attack and go, that's just not how that attack works. And then close it out.
Right.
And I think it's such an essential aspect. I don't really think you can effectively be a blue teamer, even if it's your most enjoyable thing, without understanding a little bit about hacking and a little bit about pen testing. And I think that's also because
Gaming Golf with the
to
Struggle of
be
Israel
a good
says,
pen tester, you need to understand how everything works.
Buddy, smile, smile.
I think it all kind of comes down, if you're on the technical sides of security, it all comes down to an engineering perspective. It's also why I hate the argument
Hewer
you can be in
says,
security and not know how
That
to code.
skill is
Guys,
worth
learn how to
so
code.
much.
Please.
Master
Learn how to read
Blaster
code,
says,
learn how to write code. You don't have to be a
That's
dev, you
exactly
don't
what
have
I'm
to be a
doing in
SME.
my daily
But I
work.
swear to God, if one more person sends me a Python script that's like 10 lines and I have to break it down line by line for them,
I think
I'll take down the industry myself.
I
all
think
right?
we've-
I will become the insider threat.
I think you've stumbled upon. I think you've triggered yourself. You just triggered yourself, Zoogs. You know that.
I think I did. Learn how to code, guys. Stop listening to the
Music
LinkedIn
says,
liars that are sitting there
100%
saying
we
you
have
can get
too
into
many
security
blue
without learning how to
teamers who
code.
have no
All right.
clue
You don't
about
have
the
to be
red,
good at
and they are
coding.
far less
Learn how to
effective.
code.
Okay. Do you feel better?
I feel better. Yeah, I do. My heart
Good.
rate just jumped
Good.
like 30 beats per minute.
All right. So while we're on hot takes, then, how
Master Blaster says,
how do you feel? You need
OSCP is 10/10's
Hold on.
definitely worth the money. Is it expensive?
Master Blob's just talking about OSCP.
Is it ridiculously
Okay, I
expensive?
just got a text that I'm not
Also,
nodding my head
yes.
enough while talking.
But
I'm
is it
ruining
worth
the
it?
immersion, so I gotta
Definitely.
make sure I'm doing that
From
too.
multiple
Thank you.
perspectives.
All right. So, how can you speak on like beginner like analysis paralysis? Like
Yes.
like when someone will ask you like, well, where do I start? Like, what do I do?
Yes.
Like, what is your advice to them?
You know that whole rant I just went on about being a good engineer?
Yeah.
That.
Just do.
Really, that's
Just
what it
jump
comes
in
down
and
to.
do.
And you don't need to jump in and do security, but
Prime
you need to
says,
jump in and learn how
Some
these systems
Sans
work.
courses are amazing
You
too.
can't be good at security
Also
without
ridiculously
understanding how they work.
expensive.
Doesn't
Yeah.
matter which side you want to go. You could go GRC, you could go SecOps, you could go the legal side, you could do pen testing, whatever direction you want to go. In the end of the day, they're all systems, right? All of these things, and it's the same reason why I keep saying learn how to code, right? All of these programs, they're code. Your firmware, it's code, right? Unless you're looking at like bits and bytes on a
GRC
binary
is for
level
people
in
who
like
like
circuit design,
suspenders.
it's code. And even
Yep.
when you get to that level, right? A
Shivers.
NOP gate, you can translate to binary. So the I think the problem with beginner paralysis analysis is people look too high too soon, right? You start your try hack me courses, they teach you how to use Metasploit, they teach you SQL injection, but they forget the part that you know what Burp Suite is? Burp Suite isn't a hacking tool. Burp Suite is a reverse engineering tool. I mean, that's really what it is. It's an analysis tool. You can do HTTP and HTTPS package captures. You
Mhm.
can look at cookies. You can look at all that public information, and then it gives you those couple little screwdrivers that you need to go start tweaking things.
Mhm.
That's the hacking, and I think that's like my intro to security was Bandit CTF.
Mhm.
I got good at Linux. That was the first thing I
Love
did. And so
Bandit.
Master Blaster says,
yeah, and I come at
I 100%
security
agree
from a
with that
systems
statement.
administration point of view because I wasn't a good programmer,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I understood systems. And so I went with it. And so I think I know I'm kind of jumping to a bunch of different things that I've been saying, but really it comes down to find the thing that's interesting to you and don't learn how to break it, learn how it works.
Okay, well, let's talk about that then real
says,
quick. So
Yeah.
how do you find the thing? Like, how do you
Translated
not
from
the thing,
Tagalog.
but how do you find the list of things to look at to wonder if you're interested or are good at those things? Do you have an
You
answer
don't
for
have
that?
to. Yeah, because I think the problem is people are too worried about being good. Don't worry about being good.
You're
when
going to
you're
suck at
sitting there-
first.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Everyone
no,
does,
I
except for a
suck
small
now.
portion of us. Right. I suck now.
I'm still bad.
We ping pong. I ping pong off of Zoogs, and I ping pong off of some other people that, I would, I'd be lost without. I'm going to say that.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt.
And thankfully, those people have not got tired of answering my questions yet. I don't know why, but
Because all of those people are asking a different group of
Kev
people
Prime
questions.
says,
okay.
Imposter
The most
syndrome.
important thing that I
Translated
did for
from
my
German.
learning career was find other people that were experienced and fall into a
Master
community
Blaster
of
says,
other people that
Agree.
just wanted
Unless
to
you're
learn.
John
Because
Hammond.
what's the best way to
You'll
learn
likely
something
suck
that you
at
have kind of a
first.
knowledge about? Teach it to someone else.
Teach someone else. Yep.
Exactly. Because, I mean, it's the same thing I said earlier. Being able to explain something on a level that someone that's less technical than you will get requires a lot of skill. And you're going to have to figure out how to explain that. And a lot of the times, the abstractions that you're making to teach people will help you have a much deeper understanding of the system you're working with.
I've been frantically looking for a quote on the other screen. I hope I haven't seemed too aloof. You watch Game Changer? Those people from College Humor?
Yeah, from College Humor. I love
Oh
those
my
guys.
God. My son convinced me to buy Dropout, and I've been watching Game Changer, Dimension 20 stuff when I exercise. I forget like how long I'm on the treadmill for. But my one of my favorite quotes, which I think applies a little bit to us like in learning and what we're doing, is Sam Reich from Game Changer. The only way to learn is by playing. The only way to win is by learning, and the only way to begin is by beginning. Just start. You're gonna stink at first. It's gonna be hard at first, but just dig in.
Yeah, and I think it's natural
Banging golf with
curiosity.
the
And
struggle
if
of
you don't
Israel
have
says.
natural curiosity, that might be something you need
All
to
of those
force.
same
Or
people that
it
you
might be time
piggybacked
to
on
find a
when you
different
started.
career.
All of them piggybacked on
Yep.
someone else
I
when they
think
started
there's
out
some
as well.
things that you
So they know
you
what
can
it's like
instill
to
in
just
people
start out
into the
smile,
point where you can
smile.
encourage it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can make someone curious.
Yeah.
And that's the most important part, is you need to have that curiosity. My first hack, quote unquote, was when I was in high school still. And I noticed on the laptops that they gave us that when you tried to open command prompt, it would display a couple lines of text and then immediately close, but it happened too quick for you to see anything. So I screen recorded it.
Mm-hmm.
I found the text, and then it was some like admin string saying like do not exec is turned on or do not launch is turned on. And so then I looked up what that string was. And then I learned,
Kitty
oh, it's
says,
like 4 hex bits
"That's
right
not
at the
me."
end of the like launcher, right? It's not even that they blocked command prompt. They just blocked the and I didn't know this part at the time, but they literally just blocked the LNK, right? And so I put it into a hex editor. I found those lines and I changed them, right? And it's that kind of curiosity. Not that I did much with that. I didn't know shit about Windows administration. I didn't know but like it was cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's that idea of just this is weird. Why is that weird?
Why is it
Or
weird?
like this is why are things the way they are? Right? Everything has a reason. Everything has a piece that comes into it. And I think this is where kind of automotive stuff and the engineering stuff really pushed me into security
Okay.
was everything's a system, right? Almost everything you can abstract to a system. Unless you're getting down to like quarks and electrons and like not even electrons. Quarks are parts of electrons, right? Everything's a system. Everything is multiple entities
Kev
working
Prime says,
together to either create or
There's
do
only been a
something.
couple things I really struggled with,
And
and one was machine code
that's
with
what you need to
assembly
go
is
find. You
truly
need to go
something that
find
I
those base
believe takes
pieces, and
years
then
of
you just
practice to
abstract from
even
there.
feel intermediate.
Agree. One of the other questions I had, because I think we're getting close here, is there any advice that you wish you had when you had first started on your path in cybersecurity? I mean, it doesn't even have to be related to cybersecurity.
Yeah.
It could be business in general. It can be.
No, there definitely is, and I think it's one that I hammered on earlier, and it's definitely a comfort zone thing. And I think it's also really well understanding the fact that you're gonna suck.
You don't learn anything. You learn less in.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a snowman just walked in front of you. I shouldn't say you don't learn anything, but you learn. I think you learn more outside of your comfort zone.
You learn more from failing than you ever will from succeeding.
Agree.
By far. It's a corny, super corny ass line, but it is aggressively true. And I think really just I wish that I would have forced myself more to step out of that earlier. I got pushed into it by work, right? I was incredibly in my comfort zone until I started my current job, and then everything sucks all the time, and so I had to figure out a way to make it unsuck or suck a little less. I wish I did that earlier. I wish that I went and had that curiosity and knew, like, you know what? I'm probably not going to understand SQL injection, but I should go figure out how a SQL database works. And that aspect more. And I don't really think that even fully cemented in me until probably earlier this year. I mean,
Gaming Golf
I've
at the
been
struggle of
curious,
Israel
but it
says,
wasn't really till I started.
One of the best
I
quotes
mean,
I heard
every
is from
single
another
engagement
dev
I've had
streamers: get
since I
comfortable
started
being
pen testing
uncomfortable.
has
Kitty
been
says,
extraordinarily
Dick,
different. I have
translated
not
from Dutch.
reused a single attack path yet. I got lucky. My first one matched TCM's course 1-to-1. Thank God. Right? It was they had LLMNR poisoning,
Insect says,
and so I grabbed an
word.
NTLM hash,
translated from
cracked
Japanese.
it. The whole crack map exec, IPv6, DNS worked. That whole process that they go over in their like ethical hacking course worked. Since then, not even one of those things has come up.
Yeah.
And
But now it's in your back pocket, though.
well, yeah, and I think every skill you learn, even if it's not applicable to what you're doing now, is still a skill, right? I have so much knowledge of just like super random tech shit, right? Like I love designing circuits. I think it's super cool. I love like discrete algebra and binary math and all that stuff. You know how often I've ever used that in work, right? I like writing assembly code. The last time I wrote assembly code for work?
Yeah.
You know, there's still skills and there's still pieces of the whole. And I think that's what's important, right? Get good at writing assembly. I'll tell you what, it's pretty easy to write C after that. You get good at writing C, you can basically do whatever you want on Windows,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Or Linux. And I think the one other
Spectre
thing too
says,
is, and
Kappa.
this is back on my programming
translated
rant
from
a little bit.
Icelandic.
Okay.
Sorry, I know I'm kind of running on here, but
You're fine.
don't learn a coding like a programming language. Learn how to code. And those are two very different things.
Mm-hmm.
Don't set out to learn Python and just learn the syntax and do blah 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 blah. You need to learn how the steps of code or of programs go. If you're working on Blackjack, right? Don't go look up how to write Blackjack in Python. Sit there and say, all right, what do I have in a Blackjack game?
Mhm.
I have a deck of cards, and these are the suits. I have 2 players. I have a point count that goes up to this. I have a amount of points that are assigned per card, right? And then write those processes out. And then I promise you, when you go and look at Python syntax, you will do that in 10 times the amount of speed, and it is going to be 10 times more useful to you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know JavaScript or Rust, right? But I'm pretty good at programming in Python and pretty good at C, right? Well, guess what's an interpreted language? JavaScript.
Yep.
Guess what's an interpreted language? Python. What's a compiled language? Rust. What's a compiled language? C, right? And like, so it's not that I need to be that good at these languages, because I can still look at them and give you a rough understanding of what they do, because you understand how code works. You know how to code. You don't just know one language or 2 languages.
For those listening to the podcast, Nori and Jess have been dumping me and Zoogs with bricks for probably about a good 5 minutes.
I've got a stack and a half.
Kev Prime says,
True
Sorry.
about including languages.
That's the reaction I get a lot of times.
Mm-hmm. And my wife snuck up on me.
That's adorable.
I drove
Yes.
past a house today that had an inflatable RV that said "shitters full" on the top of it. I
Master
know.
Blaster says,
Really?
Yes, I just
actually
like I
enjoying
saw it
that.
out of the corner of my eye and I went, and I didn't get like a good look
Jess
at it. I was
says,
like, that's amazing.
Hi,
Spectacular.
Mrs. Theo.
Jess says hi.
Hello. Happy holidays.
Master Blaster
Well,
says,
Zoogs, I think that. Oh,
Hello, Mrs.
thank you.
Theo.
You were leaving me hanging. That was embarrassing.
And Master Blaster says hello.
Kitty
Hello.
says,
All right.
Mrs. Theo Noiki one
And
hug.
Nori says hello.
Gaining
Hello,
both of the struggle with
happy
Israel says,
I also say
Thanks
hello.
a lot.
Hi,
I'm still
Mrs.
there,
Theo.
yeah.
D.
Zoogs, thank you for doing this. I appreciate all your input. And I'll continue. And don't worry, I'll continue to bother you for the link to your Git book that I had up just the other day. I had it up on my browser just the other day.
I'm gonna quick plug in the chat
Happy
real quick.
holidays
Yeah,
to
please.
you too, Mrs.
Yeah.
Theo. D.
This is my terribly written TTPs. If you want a better version, go to Hactrix.
Web link.
translated from German.
And so
To
I
be
don't miss
honest.
it for the podcast. It's zoogsec.gitbook.io.
ZOOGSEC.gitbook.io.
In my scribblings of a madman are on GitHub. I back up all my notes to GitHub for people to use as well. So last question I have, in a zombie apocalypse, what 3 items would you grab as you make your escape?
Oh my god, so easy because I have them all. All right,
ZOGZ
listen.
less than
I
12.
got a 50-pound bucket of mac and cheese, freeze-dried mac and cheese from Costco. It's got 1,500 servings and a 15-year shelf life. I also have a 4-gallon charcoal filter. It's good for about 500 to 600 gallons of water and relatively portable. And third off, my hood hose that I am not disclosing any more information on. But ammo is cheap, plentiful, and light.
Oh, my. Okay. All right. Very good.
Guys,
Zoogs.
the better hacker you get, the more paranoid you'll get. Just look out.
Well, Zoogs, thank you again kindly.
It's been a pleasure, Theo.
Hey, feel free to wander around if you want, but yep, thank you again. Cool.
Yep, I'm gonna go find my remote code execution in Bedrock Minecraft. See you guys.
See ya, Zooks.